agriculturalist by profession, and I'm here to share with you a few points that I feel can make a change in the farmer's life. I've entitled this particular session as 5 pillars of a successful farmer. What are the 5 pillars of a successful farmer? I think I would start with number 1. Any farmer that wants to go into farming on a very serious note, he has to know that there must be planning. I think we've talked about this several times in different spheres, and this aspect is actually also found in the farming industry. So without planning, as a farmer, you're going nowhere. So it's very, very important that you plan your activities way before you start planting anything, or you start taking care of animals, whatever you want to do. Make sure that you do the planning, and the planning aspect involves a number of things. You need to know exactly where you're going to get the inputs to use in your field. You need to know exactly the kind of land or whatever that you're going to use in this particular aspect. And as they say, someone said, planning to fail is actually failing to plan, or failing to plan is actually failing to succeed. So you need to make sure that you do your planning right, and then at the end of the day, you'll be able to see things moving in the right direction. It's a pity that most of the farmers in this nation, especially the small-scale farmers, they only think of putting something in the ground when they see that it's raining. When you start seeing the rain, that's when they start rushing to agro shops to go and buy fertilizer, to go and buy chemicals and whatever they use in the farming system. At the end of the day, you find that they do a lot of failures because they reach this side, maybe the particular variety they were supposed to get is not there, or the particular type they were supposed to get is not there, or actually fertilizer that was supposed to apply is actually run out of stock. So planning is very, very important to ensure that you do it way before, so that you don't lose out of time, and you don't lose your yield, or you don't lose your investment at the end of the day. Then point number 2 that I want also to share with you farmers today is the issue of seeking knowledge. I think it's very, very important that as we get into farming, we have to seek the knowledge. Where do we seek knowledge? Anybody that wants to get into farming, I can give an example of a situation where you want to do this particular business. For example, maybe I want to know more about what is happening in the river. I think I've given this particular statement in the agribusiness workshops and sessions that I've done with farmers out there. If you want to know something in the river, definitely I'll go to the hippo or the crocodile to give me information. But if I want to know something in the river, and then find myself, I go and ask a goat, what is going to happen? What is the goat going to tell me about what is in the river? A goat is just going to give me a general statement of what is in the river. The goat will just tell me that there's fish. But when I ask a hippo is actually going to tell me to say at that particular corner, such a depth, in terms of depth going down, you can find this kind of fish. You can actually find this kind of fish or that kind of fish. So in a way, I'm getting the right knowledge from the right people. So as a farmer, somebody that wants to get into farming, we've got the Ministry of Agriculture out there. We've got the agro shops. We've got also the private companies in the agriculture industry, where if somebody that wants to go into farming should go and ask for knowledge, so that he knows exactly what he's going to put in, what he's going to do at the end of the day. So if all of you or anybody that wants to get into farming gets knowledge, it means at the end of the day, you're going to reduce the risks that are involved in farming. You're going to reduce a lot of trouble that may go on. So it's very, very important that you seek knowledge, and at the end of the day, you're able to do it right. Then the 3rd point that I want also to put in is an issue of a mentor. One of the 5 pillars of a successful farmer is having a mentor. What I mean by a mentor can either be a coach, it can either be someone who is experienced, someone who knows better than you, somebody who has been there before, somebody who will be able to teach you the ups and downs, or the tidbits, or the pieces and bits of what is involved in farming. So this kind of a mentor is somebody that is going to guide you, somebody that is going to lead you, somebody that's going to show you the way, so that at the end of the day you don't make a lot of mistakes. I always give an example of boxers. I think we've got a very good example currently in the nation. We've got the likes of Catherine Piri, we've got the likes of Esther Piri, we've got the likes of the late Lotmale. All these people had their coaches that were actually showing them one, two, three of things, or what they were expected of them when they get into the ring. So that at the end of the day, when they get into the ring, they don't actually show their power there, but they actually show that they have actually come back from somewhere where they were taught on the things that they're supposed to do and the things that we're not supposed to do. And at the end of the day, they remain champions. So if you want to become a champion in farming, you want to do it better in farming, you are better off having a mentor, having a coach, or you can even call them agriculturists or agronomists. All these people are available, and they are there to, they can be there to give you information, they can be there to guide you, they can be there to show you the way. At the end of the day, farming in this nation will go to a different level. Then the fourth point that I want to share with you farmers again is the issue of persistence. One of the pillars of a successful farmer is to know that when you are getting into farming, farming is not all rosy. There are a lot of things that are involved. There are so many things that can pull you away from this kind of farming. There could be a lot of troubles. You can have disasters. You find that today you are ordering your day-old chicks, the next day they are eaten up, or maybe something else comes up and they die. Everything that have died. So what do you do as a farmer? You must persist. You don't just give up easily there and then. You must persist, because this business is not something that you can just wake up the next day and everything else will go on very well. So you must persist and take your time, and at the end of the day you'll be able to see results coming your way, because in the same way of the same way of persisting, you'll be able to know better ways of doing it better, such that you don't repeat the same mistakes, or you don't do the same way. So there are so many things that I can talk about in terms of persistence. I think one of the things is that when you're establishing your agribusiness, there are several ways in which you can mitigate some risks, like agriculture insurance is one of them, some of the things that you can do about that. And also I think the other points that I mentioned earlier on is planning, seeking the knowledge, and having a mentor. All those things are going to reduce the kind of risk that you can find yourself in. And at the end of the day, even these same people are going to drive you. They'll be pushing you to go to the next level. So at the end of the day, you are doing it with a renewed hope. Then the other point that I also want to mention, which is the fifth point, the pillars of a successful farmer, is what I call patience. I think it's very, very important that a farmer must be patient. One of the things that a farmer is taught is to have the faith. When you're putting your seed in the ground, you need to know that I need to wait for certain months, for certain days, for that fruit to actually give you the yield that you really want. So it's very, very important that you need to have the patience to wait, so that you'll be able to get the results. It's not something that you plant today and the next day you harvest. No, it takes a bit of time. So during that time, you need to have the patience. You need to make sure that you take care of your crop. If it means watering, you're watering it. If it means putting fertilizer, you're putting the fertilizer. If it means the rains that are coming to water your field, let them do so. You are waiting patiently until the day that you're going to have your harvest. So just to sum up what I actually mentioned about the 5 pillars of a successful farmer is that you need to have the planning aspect, you need to seek knowledge, you need to have a mentor or a coach to guide you in the process, you need to persist in the business, it's not all rosy, and then you need to have patience. So at the end of the day, maybe just to sum it up, you need to know your God. And at the end of the day, when you put God in everything that you do, your farming will never be the same. That's why I like saying, be a farmer, be a millionaire. Your life will never be the same. Thank you very much. My name's K Mwenda. I'm a technical field expert for MRI Syngenta. But today I want just to share with you a few points that are very, very important in the growing of tomato. The business of tomato growing. I've got 10 points that I want to share with you out there. Point number 1, I think I would love to start with a Bible verse, which is found in the book of Hosea 4 verse 6, which says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. If you don't have knowledge in growing tomato, you're going to perish. And what that means is that you're going to grow your crop, and at the end of the day you find a disease or any trouble with the tomato and you just abandon the whole thing. So at the end of the day you're losing out because you don't have knowledge. Now I would love to share with you these very important points. I think like I said with you, you need to have the knowledge so that you don't perish in this aspect. So point number 1 is passion. You need to have passion for the crop, because if you don't have passion for anything that you want to do, my dear brother and sister, you're not going to go anywhere. So it's very, very important that you have got passion for whatever you're trying to do, and the passion is going to drive you to do even greater things in this tomato business. Because you don't have passion, by the end of the day you find yourself just having an interest and it will not take you anywhere. The point number 2 is that you need to be committed to the whole process. The process of growing tomato, the business of growing tomato involves a lot of things. One has to be committed in the finances. You need to make sure that you've got money to invest in the business. One has to be committed on the timing. You need to find time to go and do your business of tomato. One has to be committed in a number of things. You have to commit your land. You have to commit quite a number of things. So commitment is key. Without commitment, at the end of the day, you're not going to go anywhere in tomato growing. One other aspect that I want to share with you, farmers, again, is point number 3, which is planning. I think I've mentioned planning in several ways, and you can't leave it out. So in the process of planning, when you're a tomato grower, we are also looking at different aspects. What are we looking at? We are also looking at the finances. Where am I going to get the money to do this particular project that I want to do? The other thing is that where am I going to get the tools that are going to help me in running this particular project? And then also in the planning phase, the labor requirements, you need people that are going to help you in running the tomato business. So you cannot just run business of tomato without people that are involved to make sure that you do it right. So you need to make sure that you organize the people well in advance that are going to help you, so that as you get into tomato growing, you have these people that are going to help you, doing the day-to-day job, because there's quite a lot of work that is involved. Then apart from that, in the planning process, you also need to make sure that you do the budgeting aspect. You need to know how much it's going to cost you to get into this tomato business, because without knowing how much it's going to be, you're just going to get into this business without knowing the implications in terms of cost, the implications in terms of how much is being sold at the market. So it's also very, very important that you do your budgeting right, so that you know exactly what is going to be involved in terms of cost. And then later on, as you get into the farming business of tomato, you'll be able to know exactly what is involved. And then another thing that I also need to inform you on the aspect of planning is also identifying the right supplier. You need to have the right supplier where you're going to be getting the inputs. I'm talking of the inputs in terms of fertilizer, in terms of chemicals. So we have quite a number of them in the nation, and the MRI Syngenta is one of them, or any other company that you are nearby to, or the agro shops that are there. You need to identify one particular supplier who is going to actually give you these particular products, so that you'll be able to use them as you get into farming. Then the other thing, when you are doing the planning, is also an aspect of marketing. I mean you need to start researching the market to see what prevailing prices are there on the market, and how is tomato behaving on the market. Today the price is at 50 kwacha, the next day at 70 kwacha. So a farmer has to know that even when you are doing the budgeting, when you are doing the planning, you need to have a situation whereby you need to actually price your crop in a way that you are able to make a profit at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, it's not going to shock you to say you are planning at 100 kwacha a box like as it is right now, and then at the end of the day you're going to sell at 50 kwacha, and then you're going to say, oh, but what could have happened with my business? So it's very, very important, the planning phase. You need to make sure that you cost it in a way that you'll be able to make a break even, you'll be able to make a profit in the tomato business. Then after knowing the planning aspect, I think the next thing that you need to know as a farmer is a land selection. You need to know exactly where you're going to do your farming, because I think without land, in this aspect, when you're talking about open field planting, you're not going to plant anything if you don't have any land. So you need to identify the land, and then this land identification, you need to make sure that you choose a place which has got a reliable source of water. I always say reliable source of water, not just a source of water, because a source of water can dry up at any time. And if you depend on it, tomato requires some moisture, or requires some water in the process, and the water is not there. When water is not there, the tomato is not going to wait for you to say until it looks for water. That's when I'll start growing. It will actually dry up. So it's very, very important that you look for a reliable source of water, or if you have one source of water, you need to have plan B, so at the end of the day you can have a situation where when the water is not here, you can get water from another point, so at least throughout the system you have got water. The other thing is that after identifying the source of water, you need to ensure that you need to make sure that probably you are tapping from the river source, or maybe you need to drill a drum. You need to drill a borehole. So there are certain things that you make sure that you put in place, so at the end of the day you've got a better way in which you are able to grow your crop rightly. And then from there, you need to also make sure that you don't have trees, you don't have rocks in your field. Because if you have got a lot of trees that are growing, tomato will not grow under a tree. Tomato is not going to grow, in the rocks. So ensure that you don't have rocks where you are going to grow your crop. Ensure that you don't have a lot of trees that are there. So at the end of the day, you're able to have a better land that is going to to give you the best tomato crop on the market. Then the fifth point that I want to share with you is that after you have identified the land, the next point that you need to do is what we call soil testing. So on the aspect of soil testing, the most important thing is to ensure that you test your soil. You know, you need to sample your soil. So at the end of the day, you're able to sample your soil, and sampling of the soil is ensuring that you take your soil to the organization that are able to test your soil. So when the soil is tested, the important thing about soil testing is that you are able to identify the availability of nutrients in that particular land. Because every soil that a farmer wants to grow a crop has got nutrients, and in those nutrients we need to know exactly what that particular soil has, so that even as we grow our tomato crop, every crop has got its own specifications. For example, you need to know, when you are doing your soil testing, you need to know your pH of the soil, which is the potential of hydrogen ions in that particular soil. Now, the potential of hydrogen ions in the soil affect the production of every crop, and every crop has got a standard in which it can grow. So for example, when you're talking about tomato, we're talking of about a range of between 5.5 to 6.5. So in that range, which is we are going to see it on your report. So depending on what you're going to see, if your soil is acidic, you make sure that you add lime to your soils. And I think with innovation that is taking place right now, we've got a liquid lime that you are able to apply in your field. You're able to put in a sprayer and spray over the same field, and within a few weeks, you're able to see the results. The acidity level is changed, because if you've got too much acid in the soil, no crop can grow in the soil. Most of the nutrients are actually trapped by the same acidity level which is available in that particular soil. So we need to make sure that we treat that soil so that the acidity level is not there. So that at the end of the day, as you plant your tomato, you are able to find all the nutrients coming, being available to the crop, and the crop is going to grow very well. So it's very, very important that you do your soil testing, so that you are able to test the pH of the soil, and then also testing also the availability of other nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. All these nutrients put together, they make a food diet for the plant. So if they're not available in the right quantity, at the right time, then you're going to have issues in the terms of the business of tomato growing. So it's very, very important that as a farmer, you need to have your soil testing done. And at the end of the day, on that particular aspect, then you'll be able to see that farming will be a very, very important aspect as you plan your things. The other thing, that the sixth point that I want to share is now you need to choose a variety. What type of variety am I going to grow? Certain varieties may not do very well in the rain season. Certain varieties may not do very well in the cold season. Certain varieties may not do very well in the hot season. So you need to identify, the right type of a variety. And this right type of variety can only be known when you go to when you go to the suppliers that are going to advise you, the agricultural supplier the agricultural input supplier that are going to advise you the right type of variety to grow, which is going to give you the benefits that are required, and also which is going to be in line with your budgeting. It's also going to be in line with everything that you have put in place, so that the business of tomato growing now becomes very, very, very meaningful to you. The other point that I also want to share is, on a first note, is the issue of equipment. You need to gather tools. As a farmer, you can't just get into farming without having everything that is required in terms of tools. So you make sure that when you want to grow tomato, you have to ensure that you've got the right tools. One of the tools that I can mention here is probably the issue of sprayers. It's what we call a knapsack sprayer. This is a sprayer. This is an equipment that you're going to be mixing water to administer the pesticides or the chemicals in your field. So you need to make sure that you have got a knapsack sprayer. Depending on the size of your field, you can always be advised, okay, for this one you need so much. And then the other thing, apart from the sprayers, also on the tools, you're talking of issues like drip irrigation system. I know some of you have never heard of a drip irrigation system. This is the system which saves water, and the system that you can use when you're growing your tomatoes, to ensure that it delivers, the right quantity of water at a given time. So you're able to control the amount of water that gets into your field by giving it stated hours. So you need to make sure that if you have enough resources, I think on the planning aspect, when you plan, you put your finances, you can also budget for this particular aspect. And if you buy the drip irrigation system, that you can also use it in your crop. If you don't have that, do not worry much. The most important thing is that have other tools like watering buckets. There are also watering buckets when you're starting on a small scale. Watering buckets, is better you go for the ones that have got small holes at the end, those watering buckets that have got small holes at the end, which are able to distribute water in your field. So those are some of the tools that that a farmer should have. Then apart from that, if you are growing the varieties that are indeterminate varieties, these are the varieties that are growing very tall, 2 meters high and and above. So for those particular varieties, they will need support. So they will need support in terms of trellising. So you need to make sure that you've got you've got the poles that you're going to put in the field. Then apart from that, you need also to have the strings that you're going to put together with the poles. So that at the end of the day, you're able to tie your crop so that it grows well without having any disturbances. Because we wouldn't want to say one plant of tomato going down because you did not support it. So it's very, very important that you support your crop by ensuring that you've got the poles, you've got the strings, and you've got the necessary other things that are required for you to ensure that you have got a better crop. So on the equipment, it's very, very important that you make sure that you have those tools handy. At the end of the day, you're going to see the business of tomato growing doing fine. Then the other point that I also want to mention is on the inputs. You need to make sure that you've got the right inputs. It must be the right inputs in terms of fertilizers, the right inputs in terms of insecticides, the right inputs in terms of fungicides. All these products are required for the crop to grow. I think fertilizers, we're talking about nutrition of the plant. For the tomato plant to grow well, it needs to feed, and that feeding is given to it by the aspect of fertilization. Then apart from that, we're talking of insecticides. The insecticides, these are products that are used to control the insect that will be found in the tomato crop. So you need to make sure that you have got the right insecticide to control the right problem that is there. Then apart from that, you need to make sure that you've got the fungicide. The fungicide, these are the products that you are able to use to control the fungal diseases. So you need to make sure that you've got the right fungicide to control the right problem. I think on that aspect, that talks about the input, so you need to make sure that you've got most of those. I think the other thing also that I can also mention here is the aspect of buffers. You also need to have a buffer. These are buffering, buffering agents that's able to, give the optimum working condition for a particular insecticide depending on the water that you have. So certain water, the pH may not be very good, so if you put in a buffer, it's able to give the right pH for the chemicals to work very well, and you're going to see the effectiveness for these particular products. And apart from that, you can also have the things that we call adjuvants, which are stickers. A sticker, I think some of you have heard of a sticker. We've got a sticker, we've got a wetter, and we've got a spreader. So these are the products that are there to just enhance the effectiveness of the particular product. So adjuvants, you talk of buffers also, like I mentioned earlier on, you talk of the stickers, talk of the wetter. So all these products are required by a farmer to ensure that they get the best crop at the end of the day. But do not worry very much. All this information can always be given to you if you have a mentor. And I've always said this several times, and I'm also going to mention it here. When we're talking about the business of tomato growing, as one of the points that you need to put in place is that you need to have your own agriculturist, you need to have your own doctor, you need to have your own mentor, somebody who should guide you, somebody who should show you, somebody who should even prepare your budget, somebody who should visit your crop, somebody who can advise you, say, okay, this particular crop, the way it's growing, this is how it. With tomato growing, never take a chance by not having a mentor. Because if you grow tomato just on hearsay, or just saying my neighbor is going to help me, please, I even advise you, maybe you're better off going to play golf or something else, because tomato business really requires you to have somebody that can be closer to you, somebody who can advise you on a daily basis, somebody who can give you advice. Otherwise, you may end up just investing your money and losing everything, which has happened several times to so many people in the nation. Now, we don't have that time to continue losing money. We only have very limited time on earth, and it's very, very important that we take these things seriously, so that at the end of the day, we're able to grow the business of tomato. Actually, when you're growing tomato, you are assured that you're going to feed the nation by providing the food that is required in the nation. And the populations are going up. We need people to grow this food to feed the nation. And as you grow your tomato, at the end of the day, you realize that apart from feeding the nation, you're also going to oil your pocket. What I mean by oiling your pocket is the way that I think most of you in Zambia know very well, which is called having more money in your pocket. So the having more money in your pocket is that as you grow your tomato, one day or the other, you're going to be smiling going to the bank because you've made something out of tomato growing. That's why in certain cycles, sometimes I like calling tomato as ready gold. This is gold which is in red. Because if you grow it very well and following the 10 points that I've mentioned on, you'll be a successful farmer that is going to make a difference in your community and finally the country as a whole. Then the last point, which is point number 10, I think I've mentioned several times, and I'll continue mentioning it because it's also very, very important. You need to involve your God. So make sure that as you are doing your planning and you are doing your inputs, as you are planting on your tomato, kneel down and pray to your God. Pray to your Almighty God, so that God can guide you, God can protect your investment, so that at the end of the day, we are going to see meaning in everything that you are going to do. So now, as a summary, just to give you a summary of the points that I've mentioned, the business of tomato growing, I've mentioned 10 points. So as a summary, just to take you through, point number one is passion. Have passion for the thing that you're going to do, for the crop that you're going to do. And then the second thing is have commitment at the second point. Then the third point is planning. Then the fourth point is land selection. And then soil testing at the fifth point. Then variety selection. Then you've got the equipment. And then from there you've got inputs. And then from inputs, I've mentioned about a mentor, coach, or a gradualist. And then finally, God. So with all the 10 points that I've mentioned, these are the ones that are going to make the business of tomato growing have a meaning. Thank you very much, and wish you a good farming season. Be a farmer, be a millionaire. Shalom, shalom. I have to take precautions, and they have to know exactly what this pest is all about, and then thereafter knowing the control or the control strategies that are there, so that at the end of the day we'll be able to maintain this particular pest, because it has actually caused a lot of trouble and a lot of chaos among the small scale farmers in our area. So if you have that type of a weed, make sure that you get rid of it, or if you're growing it near the tomato, make sure that you don't keep it nearby, because if you do, that particular weed is going to have these eggs of tuta absoluta multiplied and reproduce from there, and you have a lot of tuta absolutas in the tomato field. So you make sure you get rid of that weed. 2 weeks because of tuta absoluta, it means that there's loss of employment by the people that have been employed at that farm, and also there's loss of food that is mostly required by this nation. As you can see, all over, everyone wants to have tomato in their kitchen, and if this tomato is not available, then we have an issue. So that's why it's very, very important that every farmer worth of the salt must know how to to look after this particular, to know this pest when it has affected the field, and then thereafter knowing the control measures.